Okay, so when you hear the word yoga, what comes to mind? Probably stretches, right? Poses on a mat. But what if I told you the most powerful yoga has nothing to do with that? What if it's actually an ancient playbook for dealing with the chaos of our lives, right now? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. We're going to unpack the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita and find a guide for our own modern-day battles. So, picture this. We're not in some calm yoga studio. No, we're on the edge of a massive, world-changing battle. And there's our guy, Arjuna. He's the best warrior out there, a total legend. He's supposed to lead the charge. But then, he looks across the battlefield. And who does he see on the other side? His mentors, his grandfather, his own family and friends. And he just breaks down. The text literally says his mind is depressed, his eyes are filled with tears, he drops his weapons, he's completely frozen. Now, you might be thinking, okay, interesting story, but what does this have to do with me? Well, here's the thing. Arjuna's crisis, it's not just some old story. It's basically a perfect metaphor for our lives. You know that feeling when you're totally stuck and every single choice you have feels wrong? Like every path is gonna lead to some kind of pain? We've all been there. Arjuna's battlefield, that's just life, right? And his total despair, that's the starting line for this incredible journey inward. Okay, so if we want to get to the solution that the Gita offers, we've got to really understand the problem first. And it all kicks off with this moment of complete, overwhelming despair, a crisis of purpose that, let's be real, feels incredibly familiar in our crazy modern world. I mean, really think about it for a second. Have you ever had a decision to make at work or with your family where it just felt like a total no-win situation? That's exactly where Arjuna is. He's got his duty as a warrior on one side and his love for his family on the other, and he's just paralyzed by what might happen. So that's the real question here, isn't it? How do you do what you're supposed to do when your heart is just screaming no? So the Gita has this really fascinating take on Arjuna's pain. It calls it material compassion. And what that means basically is that his suffering isn't for the real part of his relatives, their eternal soul. No, he's freaking out over their temporary outward dress, their bodies. The text uses this amazing analogy. It's like worrying about the clothes of a drowning man instead of saving the man himself. Wow, it's this deep, fundamental mix-up of what's real and what's just passing through. Okay, so if our pain is coming from this huge misunderstanding, then what's the actual reality? Well, the Gita's answer gets right to the core of why we feel so much anxiety and confusion in the first place. This chart lays it out perfectly. On one hand, you've got the body. It's temporary, right? It's born, it goes through all the ups and downs, and eventually, it's gone. But then, there's the eternal self, the soul. And the Gita says this part of you can't be destroyed. It was never born, it never dies. It doesn't feel the distress or happiness the way the body does. It's more like the silent witness to all of it. So here's the big takeaway. You are not your body. You are the timeless, eternal self that's just living inside the body. And because we forget this huge difference, the text says we're basically born into delusion. Think about it. We go through life totally convinced that we are our bodies and our minds. And this creates this constant push and pull, right? We're bewildered by all these dualities, desire versus hate, pleasure versus pain, success versus failure. Our whole lives become this frantic chase for the good stuff and a desperate sprint away from the bad stuff. And in all that chaos, we completely forget who we really are at our core, that peaceful, steady self. So the big question is, how do you break free from all that while you still have to, live your life, go to work, pay the bills? Well, this leads us to the Gita's #1 solution. It's a totally revolutionary way of looking at action, and it's called Karma Yoga. And seriously, this is a total game changer. The Gita just completely redefines what yoga even means. It's not about poses, it's not about breathing. True yoga is skill in action. It's a way of being. It's all about how you show up for your daily life, your job, your family, all of it. It turns the most boring, mundane stuff into something sacred. Suddenly, your office desk, your kitchen sink, that becomes your yoga mat. Okay, so how do you actually do this? The Gita gives us a super clear 3-step path. Step 1, just do your duty. Do what's in front of you. Don't bail on your responsibilities like Arjuna wanted to. Step 2, and this is the big one, do your work without being attached to the results. You do the job for the sake of the job, not because you're chasing a promotion or praise or even a paycheck. And finally, step 3, stay cool, stay balanced. Whether you win or lose, succeed or fail, you remain steady. That even-keeled mindset, that's the sign of a real yogi. And this quote here, it just nails it. That false ego it talks about, that's the voice in your head that ties your identity to the outcome. It's the part that says, I won, so I'm great, or I failed, so I'm worthless. When you can detach from that, when your mind isn't all tangled up in the what-ifs and the results, you're free. The work itself doesn't trap you anymore. You can go out and be super effective in the world without being a mental prisoner to the consequences. Now, look, let's be real. Acting like this takes a ton of inner strength. It's one thing to say, oh, just be detached from the outcome. It's another thing entirely to actually do it. So, how do we build that inner muscle? Well, next we're going to get into the Gita's guide for conquering that final frontier, our own minds. The Gita points to one main enemy inside all of us. It calls it an insatiable fire that just totally clouds our thinking. The word is kama. Now, it's often translated as lust, but it's so much bigger than that. Think of it as any intense, selfish craving you can have. Craving for money, for status, for pleasure, you name it. And that burning desire, the Gita says, is like a smokescreen that covers up our clear, true self and gets us lost. And get this inner enemy is smart. It's a brilliant strategist. It takes over our inner world piece by piece. First, it captures the senses, our eyes, our ears, always scanning the world for something to enjoy. Then it invades the mind, turning it into this database of ways to get more pleasure. And the final move? It hijacks our intelligence. It convinces us that chasing after all these cravings is what happiness is all about. And yeah, let's just state the obvious. This is really, really hard. Even Arjuna, the great warrior, says it would be easier to control the freaking wind than to control his own mind. And I love that the Gita just admits it. It totally validates what we all feel. That the mind is restless, it's wild, it's stubborn. It doesn't sugarcoat it and pretend this is going to be easy. But, and this is a big but, it is possible. The solution has two key parts. The first is practice. The Sanskrit word is abhyasa. It just means you gotta show up and do the work, consistently, day in, day out. The second part is detachment, or vairagya. This is the active choice to let go of the stuff that winds up your mind. And the Gita promises that with these two things together, consistent practice and letting go, even the wildest mind can be tamed. Okay, so after all that hard work, skillful action, mental discipline, what's in it for us? What's the payoff? Well, that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the ultimate goal, the incredible reward you get for actually living this way. And the grand prize isn't just some temporary high, it's a whole new state of being. It's called steady intelligence. Just think about that. A mind that's stable, peaceful. A consciousness that doesn't get knocked over by every little up and down life throws at you. The text says a wise person doesn't get carried away by fleeting pleasures because they know those things come and go. Real, lasting happiness, that's an inside job. It's found by turning your attention inward. And here's the Gita's most incredible promise. This path to freedom, it's for everyone. It doesn't matter what you do for a living, where you were born, what your background is. It doesn't matter what mistakes you've made. The text is crystal clear. Anyone who gets this philosophy and actually puts it into practice can be free. I mean, how hopeful and empowering is that? So, I want to leave you with this one question to chew on. When you look at your own life, your daily work, your family, all your responsibilities, what if that is your real battlefield, your own personal Kurukshetra? What if that's the perfect place to practice this profound yoga? Because if you start applying these ideas, this skilled and detached action, you might just find that the real path to peace isn't about running away from the world. It's about showing up for it in a totally new and powerful